how's everybody doing? Yeah? You guys think it's been a long day for you. I've been waiting to do this keynote all day, so I'm the most nervous I've ever been for a presentation, actually, since my bar mitzvah, so I apologize for right now, but this is all new material. You are a test audience, and this is a little out of my normal scope. So this is the blueprint. This is about how to build your recruiter brand, which is different than an employer brand, as we'll get into. So that is me, and that is a data visualization headshot there. But anyway, I'm the executive editor and head of content for Recruiting Daily. So essentially what my job is staying informed. We serve a community of about 140,000 recruiters globally. So I get to talk to people all over the world about their challenges every day. And on the other side, I work with technology companies to help them go to market and also identify potential opportunities to help grow. So I kind of see both sides of the house. So with that said, just as a warning, apparently I get away with a little bit more, according to the FTC, if I put this on. So just know that this might not be suitable for all audiences, particularly if you tend to be a little bit old school. I will tell you in advance, and this may scare you, I am an authentic millennial. And just a side note, millennials actually hate that word, so you should probably stop using it. Thank you. All right. So we're going to talk about two things today. Their takeaways are going to be PP, which is perception and persuasion, okay? So we're going to start off with perceptions, and this is how people view recruiting. So these are fairly legitimate publications, right? Harvard Business Review, It's Time to Blow Up HR, couldn't agree more. Fast Company, Why We Hate HR. The thing about recruiting that are kind of starting to work against us is the fact that HR is seen within many organizations as a necessary evil at best. In fact, so we did a poll with about 350 CHROs and then another 350 top leaders in an organization. We asked, who are your stakeholders, the CHROs? And none of them actually had a very good answer. It was other for 70%. Then at the same time, we asked, do you know your HR business partner? And if so, who? To the workers, and almost all of the answers were actually recruiters. So for better or worse, you were the face of your company of HR. So that's one piece of perception we have to work against. And so we're going to be talking about what that means. So essentially, we are in a prison. It's called the HR department, that you can never escape. The way to redeem that past is not to run from it, to understand it, and use it as a foundation to grow. All right? So there's going to be a lot of Jay-Z in this, by the way. So I apologize for my Hova love. So here's what we're dealing with right now. The world's centerpiece for information, right? This is universal search, typed in recruiters are, and the first thing that comes up, why recruiters are bad for your career, recruiters are scumbags, recruiters are the worst, and recruiters are a waste of time. Congratulations, everybody. That is what we're talking about with perception. And, you know, nobody really knows what we do. Ostensibly, we fill jobs, but when you don't ever hear back from said recruiters and you can't ever get the job, it's kind of hard to do that. So this is kind of like everyone's view of recruitment right now in the marketplace, right? My friends think I do, sit around, drink beers. My mom thinks I do. My mom still doesn't know what the hell I do, and I don't know if I do either. What society thinks I do, I'm a used car salesman, right? If I'm in recruiting. What customers think I do, raking in the money. We all know that actually we are indeed just herding cats, but in reality, we're sitting there with our hand in our heads going, what the heck am I supposed to do right now, right? So there's a little bit different perceptions of recruiting, none of them, I would say, all that kind that's accurate. We talk a lot about social recruiting, right? So I figured that I would go on social media and see what people were saying about the recruiting profession. Some of these are actually just classic, but right now, it is so bad with job search, I'm not even talking about candidate experience. 30% would rather go on a blind date or public speak, which are like the two biggest fears in the world, than actually go through the job search process. Or go through a root canal, the most painful thing in the world, right? And I wonder why. If you just kind of look at these, this is great. I think my favorite on this one is, this is the first recruiter called me, described a great role, then told me the company, it's a lower level role in my department. Very well done. All right? It gets better. Okay, here are a couple of my favorites. So if 60% of the online recruiting process happens before a candidate actually contacts an employer, that means that this is what's performing the perception of you when you call. So we have what's called a fixed response within psychology, and that's often done by a trigger. In this case, when you say, hey, I'm a recruiter with, they don't get past the recruiter their trigger response is to actually shut down and probably either hang up the phone or not respond to an email. But this is my favorite one of all. Yesterday, a recruiter called to ask for tips for filling a role I was made redundant from. Good week all around, right? I think we've all been there. And this is my favorite from our friends at Microsoft, now the owners of LinkedIn. Fine piece of branding here. So I don't know if anyone saw this, but this is what happens when you try to communicate to candidates and be authentic, which we hear that a lot, authentic, transparent. If anyone says they're being authentic, it means they are, in fact, faking it. If anyone says they're being transparent, it means they're being intentionally opaque, right? So this is Microsoft trying to get in with the kids, right? Hey, I'm Kim, a Microsoft University recruiter, blah, blah, blah. We're doing an intern show. We're throwing an exclusive after party the night of the event at our San Francisco office, and you're invited. There will be hella noms, lots of drinks, the best beats, and just like last year, we're breaking out the Amber beer pong tables. Like, I don't know what your BS meter is, but if you are currently an intern and trying to work within the technology space, this is probably the worst thing you can get from the company that gave us Clippy, right? So it makes you wonder, in terms of perception, like, how did we get here? And I think the real question is, how do people become recruiters? So I ask Google again. How do I become a recruiter? Embedded research results. Earn a bachelor's degree, but to begin in recruiting, individuals can work towards a bachelor's degree, gain experience, apply to recruiting firms, pursue continuing education. Okay, that seems relatively ambiguous. Let's break that down. So these are all just for the state of Massachusetts. If I want to become a real estate agent in Massachusetts, I need 40 hours of classroom training. I need 3 certified professional endorsements. I need to complete an exam, get 12 hours worth of recertification every year, and then I have to do sales licensing and all that sort of things, right? So pretty hard to become a real estate agent. If I want to cut hair, all right, just cut hair. I have to finish 6 months of a board-certified classroom program, minimum 1,200 training hours, which is good, right? Because nobody wants to be the person there when the barber's screwing up. They have a 3-part written exam. You have to be sponsored by somebody who's already state licensed, and there's an annual recertification process. This is to become a cosmetologist. So shout out to Jared at Great Clips. It's pretty hard to recruit from there, I would say. However, the people who are responsible for hiring these people, we have no additional requirements whatsoever. Which is like, it's kind of weird, right? Since we're very much about pedigree, where people worked, where they did, where they went to school, all that. Essentially, at the same time, most of us either didn't go to school or this is where we came from, right? And I love this graphic. This is from a global poll. 50% where philosophy majors go to die. I randomly happened to cross it after school, as I did as well, and I'm sure that speaks for many of the people. They're like, you get paid for selling jobs? That seems pretty easy, given it's a necessity of life. Knew a friend that was recruiting second. My favorite is the 15.6% who said, I got pulled out of my retail gig, okay, right? I went to school and studied the trade. Those 6.3% I think are either lying or it's a little bit different school. And I guess nobody really wanted to make the big bucks. So if I'm trying to recruit for recruiters, and I think that Greg actually flashed a stat out earlier that right now there are 6,900 companies with posted recruiter job openings, quite a lot. But if I'm trying to do that, and I'm trying to just start out in this field, that is the employer brand for our profession. These are all live and on Google right now. And if you wonder why you get no respect and why you have trouble getting a seat at the table, this is the front end of the profession right there, folks. I have nothing to say. HR opening only females. Highly compliant, by the way. And my favorite, franchise recruiters wanted. She really looks happy handing that side. So how do we actually become a recruiter? So I worked with a company out of Denmark, of all places, right? Home of the Smurfs and Legos, called Relink Labs. We actually broke down about 200,000 professional profiles to figure out how people are coming in and how they're going out. So the formal education, psychology. This is going to be for all you psych majors in the house once we get into the persuasion part after perception. Marketing, which I think is interesting. You just break down the line. There's really no background educationally that you see being the through line. After you become a recruiter, I don't know what the difference between a recruiter and a recruitment consultant is. I guess those who can't do consult. Coordinator seems a step back, but okay. But again, there's no real consistency in how we enter from an educational perspective or what we do before we come in, okay? So right now, as an average, recruiters stay in a position for about 2 years. Yet we also hold that against candidates because they're job hoppers, right? Which is a little bit of a double standard. I've always wondered why that is, and I think you all know the answer to that. When you look at jobs all day, you talk about opportunities, you look at all the job descriptions your competitors are posted, all of a sudden you find yourself kind of motivated to apply on those really bad Monday mornings, right? Either that or there are no passive candidates. It's up to, a recruiter to make them active, and when you talk to recruiters all day, we're really good at doing that. And then you see, compared to other industries, I mean, we are turning over quicker than any job hopper you've ever disqualified for short tenures, right? And then when we go on, HR specialists, okay, cool, you've lost your imagination. Salesperson and consultants are the other two. Again, really no through lines. But here's the real question. Is recruiting a job or is it a career? So we did another poll, and 60%, 3 out of 5, say that this is what I want to do for the rest of my life. However, 10% almost, so like 1 out of 10 recruiters are like, I don't want to do this anymore at this exact moment. So really when it comes to changing the perception of recruiters, we really need to get our head around why we're here. And there are all sorts of different titles, right? There's human capital, there's staffing, there's talent acquisition, just recruiter. In fact, I did the exact same job at Walt Disney and Warner Brothers. At one company, I was a senior staffing consultant. The other, I was a senior recruiter. What was the difference? I got paid a little more as a senior staffing consultant, frankly. But that said, we just need to remember this. If we want to elevate the brand of this profession, we not only have to work against a bunch of perception issues, but we also have to understand that this is actually a job. It is a job function, it's a career, and we, for all the tech, all the best practices, all the tools, all the tips, we help people find jobs. We give them meaningful opportunities in their lives, and hopefully we're improving the quality of their work and of their life. And that right there is one of the most noble things in the entire world. So if you're feeling down because nobody will return your phone calls, thank you. Appreciate y'all. So if you ever have that feeling where you're like, what am I doing with my life? You're the 10% who like, I'm done, peace. At that point in time, just remember you were doing a really good job, and this is an important line of work, right? And it's something that when you see the spam coming in, you really need to just refocus and remember that this is important. But this is what I call the Bukowski test. And this is what you have to sell for every job, right? How in the hell could a man enjoy being awakened at 6:30 a.m. by an alarm clock, leap out of bed, dress, force feed shit, piss, brush hair and teeth, and fight traffic to get to a place where essentially you made lots of money for somebody else and were asked to be grateful for the opportunity to do so? You have to answer that question, right? This is essentially what work is. And if you're presenting a work-related opportunity, strip down, that's what it is. So moving on from perception to persuasion, talk about how to build your recruiter brand. I'm going to try not to use HR buzzwords, just plain English. I'm going to give you a framework here. It's called Occam's razor. I don't know if anyone's familiar with it. It was first founded by a 15th century Franciscan friar in England. He was actually a hermit, which might explain why I think it's a good analogy for framing recruiting. We tend to over-complexify the heck out of everything, right? So the thing I want you to remember is the simplest analysis is usually the correct one. It doesn't always involve tools. It doesn't always involve technology. We talk about candidates, hiring managers. At the end of the day, we are people working with people. And that's really what I want to get across to you, is the tools don't matter. The tech doesn't necessarily matter, unless you're stuck with a terrible applicant tracking system, granted. But ultimately, your job is to make a hire. That's it. And hopefully to make the right one. But you also don't control that either, right?